The first console I had was the Super Nintendo. My mom found one along with a couple controllers and a few games for $15 at a garage sale. I was the most amazed and grateful kid in the world. I still strangely remember begging my aunt on one occasion to get me a used copy of Super Mario World from GameStop and entering into a contract that mandated if she got me the game, then every time she came to visit me from a few states away that I had to give her a hug. I think she bought the game for like $6, but obviously as a kid it felt like an innumerable amount. You can probably imagine how young I was. A couple years out, I got the Nintendo GameCube, and according to my birthday, as well as the console's release, I was probably like, 6 or 7 years old. It was like 2003 or 4. The numbers don't seem to add up, honestly, because I can remember spending hours having my dad help me beat Donkey Kong Country 2, and hours with my little sister playing Super Mario Sunshine, and we don't feel any younger in my memories. But maybe that's just part of what a memory means. When the Wii came out, everyone was excited, of course. It seemed like everybody had one, and for a couple years it was cool. I remember us getting the Wii Fit board and Pro upgrades, but we barely had any games. I kept mainly playing on my 3DS, and then also collecting old games for other consoles I had and wanted, like the NES, N64, PlayStation 1, and 2. We're talking around 2010 now. I'd say by the math, I was probably like 12 or so. Around this time, I was starting to want to play some of the games that I'd been missing out on and hearing my friends talk about from other consoles, like Xbox. But things like Halo didn't really interest me that much. Instead, the first big thing that I saw Let's Plays on that caught my eye was Portal, the original one, and it was discounted on Steam for cheap. So I made a Steam account just to play Portal. It didn't stay like that though, obviously. I continued to buy games I never got on the Wii. I find great indie game experiences, some that weren't even available on Steam, and just generally explore everything. I got Minecraft and Super Meat Boy and Indie Game the Movie. Indie Game the Movie inspired me to try and learn programming because I wanted more than anything in the world to make video games. I obviously didn't have the money to produce or hire other people to make the game I wanted, so I needed to learn myself. I never got that far, but I did manage to cheat my algebra class by making a program that did the quadratic formula for me. You'd think learning the formula itself would be more efficient and less difficult to do than programming something else to do it. But that's just how I was, and I guess how I am. Crazy enough, on one of my external hard drives, I still have that program. When the Wii U came out, I didn't really care all that much, honestly, but once Pikmin 3 was announced, I got one. And I went to Walmart at midnight to pick up a copy. Pikmin 2 was one of my favorite childhood games, and I still treasure it as one of my favorites of all time. Unfortunately, while Pikmin 3 looked absolutely beautiful compared to the previous games, I beat it in a little more than a weekend. There were no cave systems or dungeons, so to speak, so it felt like it was more of a graphics reimagining of the first game than a sequel to Pikmin 2. Except, it felt like the soul was missing to me. I didn't care about gathering the same few fruits. Most all of the clever humor and part names were also largely cut out. Captain's logs and everything I connected with, the Piclopedia even. That proper ominous world building and atmosphere that I loved about Pikmin for the most part felt gone. And this wasn't something just with Pikmin 3, it was sort of a feeling I was having with a lot of the games around this time. The moods that immersed me in Donkey Kong Country 2, Yoshi's Island, etc. I wouldn't say I was burned, I didn't harbor many hard feelings at all, but since I was getting into PC gaming, and the one game I wanted for 9 years took me little more than a weekend to beat, I just kind of drifted away and lost interest. From that point, and since I got it on midnight, I can actually give you the exact date. The Monday of July 8th, 2013, to be exact, I never touched my Wii U again. For that matter, all of my gaming was going into stuff like Skyrim and Minecraft on my PC. Which honestly was a great time for my video game experience. I got 2 of my favorite games of all time, Fallout New Vegas and Cave Story. Of course, I still managed to play things Nintendo related occasionally on my 3DS, as well as on my PC with Mother 3, but for the most part, I just sort of drifted away from Nintendo. I didn't dislike the games that were being put out, but I felt very indifferent to them. and it wasn't a huge part of my life for years. Although I continued to, over that time, praise the original Donkey Kong Country trilogy, Pikmin, Earthbound, Luigi's Mansion, and many others all through those years. So I guess without realizing it, I went nearly 6 years without anything Nintendo related. A company I largely grew up on, and I loved, completely drifted away from my mind. Even when the Switch came out, I was unintentionally roughshod and not paying enough attention to the news. I did eventually see some stuff on Breath of the Wild in fall of 2018, and started to see some of it. I thought it looked cool. It had a good atmosphere and depth, and it didn't look like something that I would pay $60 for just to finish unsatisfied in 3 days. And wow, I was right. Of course, I already talked about that. Right under my nose, Nintendo had been reinventing themselves to regain some of what I think they started to lose around the release of the Wii. Games with a unique, dreamlike depth and wonder that didn't come off as too hand-holding. Now, they have continued to make some of that for the Switch, but that's fine. I don't have a problem with them making games like that. They're still well-polished and creative. They're still Nintendo quality, it's just that not every game is made for my personal taste. But it feels good to see or feel like I see the tastes that I like and I have coming back to Nintendo. The feelings of what drew me into the Nintendo games more than my others. I may not love Super Mario Odyssey as much as Sunshine, but I can see it cut from the same cloth, and that makes me happy. I hadn't even owned a Smash game since Melee, and now I finally do, and I still suck. I don't know. After the honestly surprisingly warm response to my Breath of the Wild video, I feel so much more comfortable possibly talking about other games that I love in the future. Nintendo is possibly, as a single company, something far more involved with my childhood and with my life in general than any other big media titans, like Disney even. I can't say for sure, but it feels like they're coming back into their prime, as the Nintendo I came to love. Or at least that's how I will feel after they announce Persona 5R coming to Switch. Thank you so much. I know it's an easy thing to block out when people say that, but Whizbang2093, Akio, Yurina, as well as all of my other patrons, thank you, seriously, you continue to make my world go round. I am also unbelievably grateful to you for making it to the end of this video. I hope you have a great week, and I'll see you next Friday.